Today we're going to look at 57,000 miles worth of fuel economy for our 2023 Corolla Hybrid. We'll view the car's miles per gallon data. We'll explore when it makes sense to buy the Corolla Hybrid versus a normal Corolla, so you can see how long you need to drive it before you start saving money versus a regular gas engine version of the car. Also, the second half of the video will contain our cost of ownership data for the vehicle, so you can see just how inexpensive it is to own a Corolla Hybrid. As you can see, we're currently pacing for 61 miles per gallon, which is a little bit higher than normal, but it is the winter time. And I've been driving it more so than my wife. But today we're going to be looking through a lot of the data. You can get this by going to the Toyota icon and going to trip information, clicking on current or history. As you can see, for the last several months, we've been averaging about 55 to 61 miles per gallon. Okay, let's look at what the cost of ownership differs between a Corolla Hybrid and just a normal Corolla. It's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 more for a hybrid. At least in the new car market, that's what it is. I remember mine was about $2,000 more. So to me, knowing I was going to keep it for a long time, it was just a no-brainer. But let's go ahead and do the math and compare, what that break-even point is. Looking at the gas mileage for a 2023 Corolla, what this ranges, at least what state is from Toyota, is a 32 city and 41 highway for gas engine, and then 53 city and 46 highway. Now again, I'm getting better numbers than what you're seeing here, but let's just go off of what Toyota publishes, and we'll do the math and compare the differences in terms of fuel economy for the two vehicles, and then we can see how many miles you have to drive at, say, $3.50 of gas before you start to break even. Okay, here's the data based on the scenario explained earlier in the video. Have a couple different graphics displaying all the information. This is the spreadsheet I've built for you to be able to calculate the break-even point of when a hybrid makes sense versus a non-hybrid. The truth is you can repurpose this and use this for just comparing any car from one to the other. I'm going to make this spreadsheet available for you to access. It will not be editable, but if you go to File and then make a copy with your Gmail account, you should be able to make a copy that you can then edit and do whatever you want. But essentially, these 5 cells right here where you see yellow are the cells where you can enter in the values to update all the numbers. So it's really only 5 things that you need to put in: how much the cost of the vehicle versus the non-hybrid version, then whatever you're paying in your area for gas, and then you can put in the blended miles per gallon average for city and freeway. So you're going to need to come up with those numbers, whether that's what the manufacturer claims or what you've seen. Again, I've been getting over 49.5, but I just went with Toyota's for my 23 Corolla Hybrid and put that there versus the non-hybrid. So you'll be able to calculate and see, okay, in this case, $2,000 premium for paying for the hybrid, and then a 13 mile per gallon improvement. Then as you can see here, it plots out for driving 10,000 miles, it's $707 in gas. 20,000 miles, it's $1,400 in gas, and then it calculates the difference. And so if you were to buy the hybrid Corolla and you were to be seeing these numbers versus a non-hybrid, in the first 10,000 miles, you would be in the whole $1,748. After 20,000 miles, you'd be in the whole $1,496, and then it just keeps going down. So at the point of 80,000 miles, in this particular scenario, is when you actually start to come out on head in it and you start saving money because you're buying a hybrid. Now again, as it states at the bottom of the spreadsheet, it's important to notice that this is only factoring in fuel costs. So something like not having to change out the brakes as often, which is very common in a hybrid, it doesn't account for that. So this is really just a fuel consumption analysis for the break even. And it also doesn't factor in the cost it's going to be for a battery. If you do keep the vehicle 250,000 miles, you might have to replace the battery at some point, and that can range anywhere from a couple $1,000s to as high as $7,000 or $8,000, possibly more depending on where you are in the country. So anyways, this is a spreadsheet. Went ahead and built it. Whoever wants to use it, feel free to. Again, you're just going to have to duplicate it, then you can modify the spreadsheet to your heart's delight. But the one I'll be linking to will just be a view-only access, so you can look at it. Again, go to File, make a copy, make your own copy, then you'll be the editor and you'll be able to manipulate the data to your heart's content. Okay, here is my cost of ownership spreadsheet for my 2023 Corolla Hybrid. Here in column E, you'll see all the costs that I incurred with the vehicle so far. If you're just looking at non-purchase cost, you're looking at $268.37. This is over a span of 57,000 miles. If you average 15,000 miles a year, that's about 4 years worth of driving. So as you can see, very cost effective, from a vehicle standpoint. I will point out, because I bought it brand new, I did have, I think, a 36,000 mile warranty where they did oil changes for free every 10,000 miles, which, I don't believe in 10,000 mile oil changes. So, some of these I did myself before the 10,000 mile mark. But, as you can see, just total cost, a very inexpensive car for ownership. Do have some upcoming costs that I can foresee, when I get to around 100,000 miles, whether that's the tranny fluid change or tires or replacing the engine, inverter, coolant, spark plugs, those type of things, but that's really going to be a bit out. So cost of ownership is here. And then for those that are interested in learning about the spreadsheet and just how I kind of track things, I'll show you, this column A is a date of when the event took place, whatever the event is itself, whether that's purchasing the car, factory service, or doing an oil change, and then how many miles I have. If the service included changing the oil, I bold it and change it to blue, so I can just very easily see the miles of the vehicle. Then I also calculate the distance between oil changes, so just using formulas from, subtracting 3,457 from 0 equals that. And then, the next number, 10,166 subtracted by 3,457 is that. Then I average these out. So I'm averaging about 7,000 miles between oil changes. So a little higher than I'd like, but, again, I want to be able to pay attention to how frequently I'm changing oils, and this helps me do that. Next in column D are the details from whatever work is performed. You can kind of see that kind of varies across the board, but I will, record, how much oil was added, how much was removed. You kind of, track and see, if there's any burning of oil. Also, here's a cost column. If I took the vehicle to somewhere to have it be performed, the service, I'll note that, or if it's, me doing something with parts from a certain store, I'll label it differently here, and then also placing me as the owner. This will make sense a little bit more here in a second when I show you my 2010 Lexus HS 250h spreadsheet, but you'll kind of get a feel for what, how that makes sense here in a second. But overall, this is kind of what I'm looking at from the standpoint of my Corolla in terms of, all the work that's been done so far, paying attention to exactly what's been done at what time. I think, when I sell the vehicle eventually in a long time, this will be a valuable resource for the person that buys the vehicle from me. And let me go ahead and jump over really quick. Won't spend a whole lot of time on this. This is a Lexus that I bought from individual owner. Travis is his mom, owned the vehicle. She bought it from a Lexus that had 1,238 miles at the dealership. They took possession of it here, sold it here, and then because they had a 100,000 mile warranty service, they would just take it into Lexus of Riverside for all the service. Because Lexus will keep track of all that information, I just plug in the VIN code and I can see all the work that was done. So in building the spreadsheet, I just went in to their website, pulled in all the information in terms of what was done, the mileage, what work was performed, and the date. And then, Travis eventually bought the vehicle from his mom. He owned it for a little bit, had some information that he passed on to me. And then here I've started to record what I've done with the vehicle and the maintenance. So, just a cool resource to be able to see historically what's been done for a vehicle. Obviously the Corolla spreadsheet's very basic, but the car's only a couple years old. So over time this will grow and get lengthier, and will just be a really good resource for me to make sure I'm keeping up on things, but also for a future owner to have a better understanding of the history of the vehicle. So this is how I use my spreadsheet. Just do it in Google Docs. Anyways, I figured I'd just share that with you, and that's what that resource is. As mentioned earlier, we've linked all the items in the video description below, which, by the way, if you click on one of those links and buy something, shortly after I might get a small kickback at no cost to you. Also, there's a way to help small creators like myself via the super thanks button below the video. And lastly, it wouldn't be a video from the internet if I didn't ask you to hit the subscribe button. At least my pleading was at the end of the video, so you didn't have to sit through that before getting the information you came for. Regardless of what you may or may not do, I appreciate your time.